Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reganelite's Viewpoint, episode 137 of the series where we cover UK news specifically here. For those who weren't there on the Good Morning show, obviously for those who weren't aware, I was on holiday last week, which is why there was no Viewpoint live stream last week. This is probably one of the few live streams that I almost never miss a Monday on, so it's incredibly rare for me to miss a Monday live stream of this, but I did, unfortunately, and I do apologize. But we are back again with another Viewpoint, and we've got a lot to discuss. Ideally, obviously, there will be some of the topics I would like to cover on the Wednesday night, but we're not doing watch along because we have the EcoFlake show, which I do feel is a much bigger thing to be talking about rather than what's happening in the UK, because it's a global thing, obviously climate, environment and whatnot. I do feel that's generally important, so we are going to try and cover as much as I can. I don't know how long I'm going to go today because there is a lot to discuss. So we have some of the stories that I've got in the description as well, but there's also obviously a lot of other things happening as well, which I want to go through with you guys as well. I'm undecided on whether or not I will do an after chat or not, because I still have so many things to cover as well. If anyone's seen, do check out the video I dropped today from the video from the AEW wrestler that I did. If you guys haven't seen it, do check it out. It's one of the latest videos. And also a very troublesome video dropping tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock about a MAGA supporter, which it was so outrageous I had to demonetize it because it was like really revolting. So if do check out the videos, I highly recommend both of them. I'll be recording hopefully one or two more videos tomorrow as well there. So I just want to say good evening to Sarah Davis. Good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Jao, one of our moderators as well, do check out his YouTube channel as well. And Mel is there as well. Sass, good to see you there as well, and anybody else who's lurking in the chat. So I can see there's quite a few lurkers there. I know not everybody can talk, so I appreciate you guys and girls giving your time for to listen in to the show. Right, let's get straight into it, guys. So obviously the big story that's come out, of course, has been the arrest of Peter Mandelson here. So let's just go straight into it. I'm going to take you straight to the clip here of Peter Mandelson here that has been arrested here, and then we're going to listen to a piece from Sam Coates of Sky News on this as well. Let me know what the volume is like, just for reference, guys, if it's too high or too low here.
We can now confirm that the Metropolitan Police are saying that Peter Mandelson has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. There is a statement from the Metropolitan Police, an update on the investigation into misconduct in public office offences relating to a government minister. And the statement says officers have arrested a 72-year-old man on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was arrested at an address in Camden on Monday, the 23rd of February, and has been taken to a London police station for interview. This follows search warrants at two addresses in Wiltshire and Camden, and not naming Peter Mandelson, but then the police didn't name Andrew Mountbatten Windsor when they arrested him for misconduct in public office offences.
I mean, like, you're looking at this and you're thinking, he's not exactly being handcuffed and whatnot sort of way. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I haven't heard he's been released yet. I'm assuming he's going to be released. He's going to be released on bail at some point here. So and obviously this is actually a really, really bad time, considering the Gorton and Denton by-election is just literally a few days away. This is actually really bad publicity for the Labour Party. The last thing you want is some bad publicity. We're so close to the by-election, which is really crucial for them there. So this is not good for Labour in that regard. For Peter Mandelson, I really, really hope that the Metropolitan Police find find a credible evidence here, because I think there's absolutely no doubt that the Metropolitan Police would not have arrested him unless they were certain that evidence coming out of the Epstein files showed and that he had shared sensitive information, government-sensitive information, that he was not allowed to share. And obviously, there are severe consequences if you do that there. Dave, again, it's good to see you there, my friend. Hope you are doing well, guys. Joe has already put a link in. Do check out the Two Davies YouTube channel. Hope you are doing well, my friend. And Peach Music there. Good to see you there as well. So, yes, he has been arrested. Do I think he's going to face like at the moment we kind of just like have to let the police investigation take its course at this time, but obviously if it does lead to a case being put against him, do I think Peter Mandelson is going to find himself in prison? No, I don't think so. I just feel like he has too many friends, too many friends in high places that will help him avoid jail time one way or another. I don't think this man is going to face jail time if he's found guilty. But there is still obviously a lot to be had. But I really don't have a lot of hope in hope in that, if I'm honest here. I just want to play this here obviously as well, because once again this is obviously let me switch camera because it'll be easier for you guys to see there as well. Because obviously, as I said, the timing of this is not ideal for the Labour Party.
No mistake about it, Mark. This is a seismic moment, not only for Peter Mandelson, but for British politics as a whole. 6 months ago, the man that you can see in the pictures was the British ambassador to Washington, one of the maybe half dozen most powerful figures in this country, personally appointed by Keir Starmer against elements even of his own better judgment, persuaded of it, we believe, by his then Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, because...
Yeah, and that's the thing that really just stinks, doesn't it? You know, literally, this guy was... Like the previous ambassador, she was perfectly fine in her role. She had a good relationship. There was no need to make any changes whatsoever. But they did this because they wanted to help out Peter. They just wanted to help out Peter.
Because he was thought to be the only man who could bridge the divide with Donald Trump's White House after the US president returned to the White House for the second time. Peter...
No, look. I really do think that it's because of the Epstein connection, which is why Peter was put in that position. Because we know now that Keir Starmer was aware of his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and he decided to. He was aware of that. We were all aware of it. The public were made aware of it, and you know that is not. While it's not really been. Like, although it has died down, obviously, a little bit, and he's kind of survived the onslaught, Keir Starmer, this is kind of just going to remind people once again, bring it back up. And it's, again, like I said, the timing of this is not very good.
Peter Mandelson believed to be the only person who could help Britain and sort out its trading and relationship with the US at this tricky time, today being taken away, as you can see, by police. Peter Mandelson has denied any wrongdoing, but I suspect there will be a lot of focus on those emails that we heard so much about, emails from the last time Gordon Brown was in the British government, when Peter Mandelson was in the British government. When Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, Peter Mandelson, then Business Secretary, alleged to have forwarded emails, that's what the Epstein emails suggested, forwarded emails to Jeffrey Epstein, potentially containing confidential government material. The allegation that he tipped off Jeffrey Epstein about an impending EU bailout and that he notified the financier about the activities of the British government and gave advice to big US bankers to mildly threaten the then UK Chancellor, the late Alistair Darling. All of those things likely to come under scrutiny. Peter Mandelson, not a figure shy of controversy, forced to resign from the British government twice when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, once over a home loan scandal, once over his relationship with the Hinduja brothers. But this challenge facing Lord Mandelson is now of a different order, with the police now, Metropolitan Police now arresting him. It will go, I think the political ramifications of this will go to the very heart of Downing Street, because once again, the focus will be on Keir Starmer's decision to appoint somebody with a track record as checkered as Peter Mandelson's politically, with those two resignations in knowledge that there was a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
And this is another, like, this is Kemi Baganott's been given ammunition for this week, this Wednesday's PMQs here. This is ammunition that she can use. You know, Keir Starmer got away last week with Prime Minister's questions. This is another opportunity for Kemi to throw some punches here, though. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Pete. Oh God, please. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that, Pete. Please take care of yourself. I appreciate you giving your time here. I hope you rest and take it easy. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that, Pete. Yeah, if you are on tomorrow's morning live stream, please give us an update on how you're doing. I'm so sorry to hear that. What you're going through, Pete. Appreciate you sharing that.
That went after his conviction for relations with minors back in 2009, a relationship that possibly involved taking hospitality from Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2010s. All of that was known to Keir Starmer at the moment that he appointed him the British ambassador to Washington. The question that Labour MPs will and are asking is why take such a risk? Is it really the case that Peter Mandelson was the only person who could solve the conundrum of the UK relationship with Washington, particularly given that there was a talented incumbent in Karen Pierce already occupying that office, but she ended up being hurried out of the British residency in Washington to make way for Peter Mandelson, because he was seen by Keir Starmer and his then Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, as the only answer to the political question that Donald Trump's second presidency posed. And yet that has turned out to look like a political misjudgment by the Prime Minister, who will now, like the rest of us, be watching these pictures.
Yeah, it's really, really not a very good picture for Keir Starmer. This is not something that, you know, you were kind of thinking, you know, for the PM, he thought he kind of like, oh, I can kind of get away from this. I can not have to deal with this, and I can kind of
no mistake about it.
And I can kind of like switch off from it a little bit, but nope. It's not going away anytime soon for him there. So unfortunately, he is going to have to deal with that. And we will come to the Gorton and Denton by-election in a little bit, guys. But yeah, in terms of this ramification here, more ammunition for the Conservatives, for the Lib Dems and Greens. Like, this is something you can throw at them if Labour. I mean, it's just not. Yeah, it's just really, really bad for them. Like Keir Starmer, as I'm pretty sure, the clock is running against him. The clock is literally running against him, and it's just a matter of if not when there. So, yeah, take care of yourself as best you can, Pete. Is all I can say, my friend. So, I appreciate you sharing. I really do. Right, guys, I want to check out this interesting exclusive that I've picked up here from The Guardian here. So, Telegraph suitors consider a legal action against the UK government over rival bids. This is exclusive from them here. So, figures led by the New York Sun owner may seek judicial review after restrictions lifted on the DMGC offer. So, this has been going on for a while here. Obviously, the Telegraph has been in this limbo of it needed to sell itself off because it was in debt. It's been going, I think, almost like more than a year, or maybe even longer now, that the Telegraph hasn't had it. And at the moment, it looks as if the government is pushing the Daily Mail, or looking to buy the Telegraph, the owners of it here, and it looks likely that may be the likely bid to be happening. There was obviously a consortium involving Abu Dhabi, and I think the UK government were concerned about that. Are concerned about it, and I think this is where this legal action is coming into here. So let's read a bit more into this together, guys. So figures involved in a rival bid for the Telegraph are drawing up legal action against the government after ministers gave the owner of the Daily Mail permission to take a significant step towards clinching its £500 million takeover. The Telegraph title, which includes the daily and the Sunday editions, have been in limbo for 3 years. 3 years after the previous owners, the Barclays family, lost control of them over huge unpaid debts. So last week, Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, lifted restrictions that had stopped the Daily Mail and the General Trust, the DMGT, the company controlled by the Daily Mail owner, Lord Rothermere, from acquiring the option to buy the Telegraph. Being able to own the option would mark the latest steps in its attempts to finally wrench control of the titles. And I really don't like that. I don't like the idea of I don't like that we have someone who already owns some newspaper branches looking to own another branch there, regardless of how I feel or anybody else feels about the Telegraph. And it is a right-wing paper. I'm not going to dispute that. I just don't want... obviously, ideally, our media should not be controlled by foreign owners in any way, shape, or form, or have any kind of say. Unfortunately, that's not the day and age we live in, which really should change here. But considering the kind of crap that comes out of the Daily Mail, I think it'd just be really, really bad for the Telegraph. And regardless, and again, one thing is that it's a really popular newspaper. It's a very popular source of information for people, whether we agree with it or not. Ellie, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. So the option is currently held by Redbird IMI, the Abu Dhabi-backed venture that has been forced to sell the Telegraph tiles after a change in the law prevented such a degree of overseas state ownership of the newspaper group, which I'm very glad that was stopped. However, it's understood that figures involved in a rival bid for the Telegraph, led by David Ifum, the British owner of the New York Sun, are now examining potential judicial review of the government's decision to allow the option to be transferred. They are concerned that the decision risks prejudging the outcome of the months of regulatory investigations over the Telegraph sale to Rothermere's group. Regulators are examining the deal's impact on media plurality and competition. It is understood that there is also concern that should Rothermere's bid be blocked, having the option on the Telegraph's ownership would effectively put it in charge of selling it on, giving DMGC control over which rival bids are accepted. So a spokesperson for the consortium did not comment. So the DMGC struck a deal to buy the Telegraph tiles in November, entering a period of exclusivity with Redbird IMI. Critics of the deal also raised concerns over a move by the DMGT last October to sell the group's lucrative events business, which does much of its work in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and to a new offshore parent company, Rothermere Continuation Holdings Limited. And yeah, this again, I don't like that whatsoever, and neither should you guys. However, the reorganisation came before the Telegraph came back on the market. And the DMGC said there would be no state funding in its Telegraph deal. Laws limiting state ownership are designed to stop overseas states being able to directly or indirectly control or influence the policy of UK newspapers. Whether we like it or not, we are that these papers are getting influenced. If they're not getting influenced by foreign owners, they're getting influenced by money coming from foreigners, from US and others. I'm not buying this idea that there isn't influence or control to a certain extent of our media by foreign entities out there. I just don't buy it, considering the kind of crap that comes out of the paper's mouths. Last week, Axel Springer, the owner of Politico and Billid, joined Ifum's rival consortium. Also involved are Baltimore Sun owner David D. Smith and British investor Jeremy Hosking. Rothermere's DMGT is planning to complete a £500 million deal with borrowing. Why is it always borrowing? The figure was widely seen as a high price, but was demanded by Redbird IMI, which wanted to recoup what it paid for the group. So Nancy has raised concerns about further consolidation of right-leaning titles and the risk that the Mail and the Telegraph could adopt aligned editorial positions, while DMGC disputed the characterization of its newspapers as right-wing, arguing the term was vague. Regular Ofcom will examine the deal's impact on media plurality. It is right-leaning. I'm not accepting this premise. To try, and you could argue it might be centre. Some of its articles and stories could be more centre than right. That can be an argument, but the vast majority of it is right-leaning. Very, very little to no left-leaning content comes out whatsoever of the Telegraph. So both the Department of Digital Media, Culture and Sport and the DMGD have all declined to comment. But the current situation is we still don't know as of right now what's happening. This is the latest we have on the Telegraph, and it's something that as it says, there's been going on for a couple of years. Generally, I would rather some of these outer bidders. I would rather some of these outer bidders, although I don't know Jeremy Hoskin or David E. Smith that well. But if I'm honest, I would rather one of them get it rather than the Daily Mail owners getting their hands on the Telegraph. Personally, I just think if you do that, it's at least a bit more of a it's not somebody that's already controls one aspect of our British media, and I think that's better for competition, if you want to put it like that. Generally, whether they'll give it to him, obviously, is another thing there. But I'm very skeptical, of course. Thank you, Steve McMahon. Good to see you there, my friend. Hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for the 50. If I can't for some reason click the heart on there, which is on the screen for some silly reason. I can click it here. There we go. Thank you so much for the 50 New Zealand dollars. That's extremely generous of you. Thank you so much, my friend. Hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for that very kind super chat. Good to see you back, mate. Yes, took a nice holiday. So I hope while I was away, that you and everyone did find any of the content I dropped interesting in any way. But thank you so much for that. It's very, very kind of you. Hope you are doing well. I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday morning where you are, so I hope you have a wonderful day, whatever your plans are. And thank you again so much for that. It's very, very kind of you. Feeling better, Ellie? If you've not been feeling well, Ellie, I hope you get better soon. There, if you've not been feeling under the weather, there, hopefully you feel better soon. Thank you again, Steve. That's very kind of you. Right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the Gorton and Denton by-election, guys. There's a couple of little things I wanted to share with you guys, with regards to it. But first, I thought kind of, as we get a bit closer to it, there's a lot to be said. Let's kind of just remind ourselves a bit about Reform Russia's candidate Matthew Goodwin here. I think it's it's really important of how big and important this is. The context behind Matthew Goodwin in the Gorton and Denton by-election, and because at the moment, some polls are saying that he's a shoo-in to win. Some are saying that it could be the Greens. Some are saying it's really tied three ways. But I wanted to play this clip here from the Canary UK, and you guys might have seen this before. He's done a funny video before, but there's a little bit of some really important information with regards to this by-election coming up this Thursday. I think is very, very much necessary for us to hear.
So the Gorton and Denton by-election is happening on Thursday, and quite a few people up there seem to be stuck in a Reform UK hole and are thinking of voting for the cheeky little right-wingers. Here's a little video you can send them to maybe make them not. Now, what usually happens in a by-election is we judge candidates based on what they say on the campaign trail. But oblong-bonced Reform UK candidate for Gorton and Denton, Matthew Goodwin, has broadly refused to talk to the media and didn't do a BBC debate because they wouldn't give him a private green room, which...
Yeah, this is absolutely true. So I think, I don't know if I covered it here, but I know other YouTubers have, where, he didn't turn up to a debate. And he tried to challenge Hannah Spencer to a one-on-one debate with her, which she turned down, and rightfully so, because he already got his arse handed to him in two separate debates with Hannah Spencer and other candidates already, and Hannah didn't need to give him another opportunity for it. But he hasn't really been speaking to. He has spoken to a few. I think he spoke to the Telegraph. I think he spoke to, but he hasn't really spoken to a lot of different outlets that are, shall we say, more centralised rather than right-leaning.
Means we'll instead have to judge Matthew based on the things he said at GB News, for example, which appears to be two separate inappropriate comments made towards a female member of staff. Something Nigel Farage knew about when he selected Oblong Matthew to be Reform UK's candidate in Gorton and Denton. Now, you might reasonably think, that seems a bit dismissive towards the safety of women, which is a crazy thing to think because Nigel Farage and Reform UK care deeply about the safety of women and girls, which is why Nigel Farage just appointed Professor James Orr as his head of policy, a Christian maniac who believes women shouldn't be allowed an abortion even in cases of rape, and why Reform UK just announced they'd repeal the Equalities Act, which gives women extra rights in places like the workplace where they might experience harassment from people like Gorton and Denton by-election candidate Matthew Goodwin. But hey, you can't judge a man on making two inappropriate comments towards a woman. Come on! Oblong Matt also said loads of other things, like women should be given a biological reality check and taxed more if they don't have babies, and that Donald Trump is right. Oh, hang on, that reminds me of someone actually. Who is it? Nah, it's gone. And of course that Matthew understands where Tommy Robinson is coming from, which is probably why Tommy Robinson endorsed Matthew as the Reform UK candidate. Unfortunately for Tommy, though, he wasn't actually able to campaign for Reform UK because he's currently seeking asylum in Spain after being named in an ISIS document. I'm actually being serious. Still, at least Matt was joined by Nigel Farage on the campaign trail. Oh no, wait, hang on. Nigel flew to the Maldives on a private jet instead. Right. Other things Oblong Matt has said in the past are included in academic papers he wrote while he was a professor. Academic papers even his right-wing colleagues have described as total garbage. You know what, Matt? I think you should have done that debate, mate, because all of this looks pretty terrible. Still, at least your campaign manager hasn't said anything mental like I'd never touch a Jewish woman and not that many people died in the Holocaust. Oh, fuck, he did.
Very, very good breakdown. I mean, this is the kind of man that's going to be voted in the Gorton and Denton by-election. But how much of people who are going to be voting in it are actually going to pay attention to it? And it's really important to understand is that while the Greens will get the majority of younger voters are in there, how many youngsters will actually come out and vote for them in this by-election is a really question. And I don't know if enough people are going to vote for the Greens to get over that line. Now, this is one poll that the Greens have been kind of shouting about. Let me switch camera here so people can actually see it here. Just for reference here, so we can see this is one poll that came out a couple of days ago. The source is from Ominous here, so I will say do take it with a pinch of salt, of course. And I will say, obviously, it does state that the Greens are going to win by 33%. I'm still very skeptical that it's going to be tight. Some polls are saying it's definitely going to be Reform. Some are saying it's going to be very close. I will say, obviously, it can really. I think it's at a point where it can go any way. It really can go any way here. That is until the next clip I'm going to show you in a moment here. But this is what they're projecting here in their polls. If I scroll a bit further down, this is what they're projecting, what the numbers will be. Again, like, take it with a pinch of salt there, but I think it's going to be interesting to say the least here. But here's the other thing I think, which might be a bit problematic perhaps for Labour voters in the Gorton and Denton by-election. This man decided to turn up today at the Gorton and Denton ahead of Thursday's by-election here. I don't know if he's actually going to go out and go on the campaign trail, the Prime Minister there. I don't know how many people are very pleased to see the Prime Minister there. Now, some people might say, oh, bringing the Prime Minister there might actually deter voters. Well, yes and no. See, the thing is that while Keir Starmer obviously is a dead man walking, and I think we can all agree with that, I'm pretty sure there would have been people saying to the Prime Minister, you shouldn't go. And he will have turned around and said, I'm the Prime Minister, I'm the leader of this party. I have to go and show my support for the by-election candidate, which is why he has done this. Now, is this actually going to help Labour or hinder Labour? I don't know if this is going to deject more Labour voters off, or perhaps galvanise some Labour voters that are still keen on Labour, because there is a lot of angry Labour voters in the Gorton and Denton by-election. So I'm kind of torn on whether or not this was a good thing or a bad thing for Keir Starmer to turn up there. But obviously, it's if I have to make a choice right now, who I think is going to win it, my heart says I want it to be Hannah Spencer, but my brain tells me they're going to pick Matt Goodwin. If I'm honest, guys, I think the Reform candidate is going to nip it, because the voters have been very much I'm not hearing enough of people getting behind the Greens, based on what I'm hearing and saying. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Hannah pulls it off. I really hope so, because I think she would be perfect for in the House of Parliament, and I think she'll be a great candidate for them. I don't want it to be Labour. I won't go as far as say I don't want it to be Labour more than Reform, because the last thing I want is that vile individual in Parliament. But yeah, something tells me Reform are going to snatch this, and if that is the case, will be very, very bad for the Greens, considering they are really going for this, and whether or not they're going to get it is going to be a very tough call to say. But I will definitely keep an eye on it on Thursday. We'll probably touch on it definitely on Thursday on the round table for sure there, because it's definitely something we will need to touch on. So, switching gears, speaking of Reform, or shall we say Reform Russia here. 234, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well there. Good to see you there in the chat. Our current PM is like that. Like him with that, no waste of time, just work. Sometimes people think he is Some people think he is heartless. He is just quietly popping up our economy and fixing the crap. The socialist leftist Costa was a good PM in the first term, but the second he was sufficient at most. He left a lot of stuff to be corrected. The thing is Keir Starmer, even though he's a dead man walking, like I think. Thank you for the comments, Jal. There, I think I generally think that the reason he's gone there is because he wants to show that he's a leader, and he's not going to back down, even if he's really, really unpopular, and he wants to show that he's standing right behind the candidate there. He doesn't want to be like Trump, where it's just going to be like staying in the background or sort of thing. I really don't know if Labour are going to pull this off. I really hope Labour don't pull it off, because one thing that has been pissing me off more than anything is the tweets from Lucy Powell on Twitter. She's been driving me mental, and I would like nothing more to see the Green candidate win it, so I can just just to make me feel bad, Dave McGuinness, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. So-called Scottish Labour have asked here. I've asked here too, but out of the Scottish general election. Thank you so much for that super chat, Dave McGuinness. Yeah, something tells me that I don't think Keir Starmer is going to be campaigning anytime soon for up in Scotland. I don't know. It might have something to do with Anis Sarwar calling for him to go. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think I think he's just gonna, for him, he will turn up in Wales and try and support for when the by-elections come round to them, and he'll obviously turn up in certain seats of the by-election as well in England. I don't think he's going to turn up at all in Scotland. I think he's going to let Anis Sarwar get destroyed, and he's basically going to call for him to go. Whether Keir Starmer survives after that by-election is another thing there. But thank you for the £5 super chat, my friend. I appreciate that. Not bad, says 234. Good. That's good to hear. So, how do you guys feel about ICE coming to the UK? Well, that's what Reform Russia want to bring here, guys. So, Pieces from The Guardian reform Russia's ICE-style deportation plan condemned as sadistic. Zero Uses set up proposals and calls migration and invasion as right groups decry grotesque measures. Now, you might think that, you know, because they're really wanting to really clamp down on immigration, they really want to show that they're really keen on cracking down on immigration and showing that they're going to be tough stuff, right? You would think that perhaps, considering the way ICE has been conducting themselves in America, that you would kind of want to not associate yourself with that, because it's quite nasty, it's quite vile. And, well, if you don't really, well, maybe you should consider it, considering stepping away from it, because, well, you see, a YouGov poll here, and I thought this was very, very nice of YouGov to put this out here. So it says here that 63% of Britons have a negative view of the United States ICE agency. As reform, Russia announced it would create a British equivalent to carry out proposals to deport hundreds of thousands of migrants per year. So you can see here just by YouGov, and it's okay. It's not all polls you always take with a pinch of salt, but I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the public of the UK public from all four corners of the nation are very much with this here. 63% have a negative view of ICE. 8% have neither. And 11% actually thinks positive because they need help. And you can see here from the numbers here, if you just want to have a look at the numbers here from everything you've seen and heard, do you have a positive or negative view of the United States ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency? If you have not seen or heard anything about ICE, please select NA here. So you've got here all, and then you have Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, Reform here. So this is what you've got the numbers here, and you can see pretty much. So the Conservatives, very much negative there. Fairly negative, some neither positive or negative. You got some Conservatives there, a few fairly there. This was conducted with 7,088 adults, just for reference there if you can't see the text there. Labour there, obviously strong negative there, 70 there. One weirdo Labour supporter finds ICE very positive, so that person needs help there. And Lib Dems as well. Very high percentage of negative, very negative there as well, with one there very positive there. Now, very interesting from Reform here. So you can see here there is a very mixed bag from Reform. So you have overall Reform voters find it very positive at 21 there, some at 20 there. But there's also a fair chunk of Reform supporters who are not a fan of ICE style of work there. And you can see there that not everyone's on board with it. You've got about 14, 12, 13% there, roughly there, of those of Reform voters who are not very much, not sure and very negative there. Despite the fact that there is a bit more people in favour of it there. And of course, you can see there is, obviously for the Greens, the highest percentage, of course, negative to ICE. No one very positive. One Green voter found it fairly positive, which I don't know why you are a voter of the Green Party if you think ICE works is fairly positive there. Just saying. But you can see there quite interesting numbers there. And then those people not sure about 6% there. But I think, you know, yes, it is just one poll. I do agree, but I do think that it is a very interesting statistic to share with you guys there. The correct term is all four nations of the state. Thank you, Dave McGinnis, for that correction. I appreciate the £5 super chat. Yeah, I always get my terms mixed up. That is something I do accept that I do mess up there. So thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that, David. And for the £5 super chat, my friend. Thank you. A lurking person, says Ellie there. Hold on a second. Let me just filter the chat there, just in case I don't miss any chats there. The Democracy plants them to Ziga guerrilla work for Israel, not the UK's interest. Yeah, they're very much in the interest of work of helping Israel. Maybe they got their ICE confused, thought it was Thursday, says Mel. Maybe indeed. So, Reform Russia plan to create an ICE-style deportation agency that has been condemned as sadistic after the party's Home Affairs spokesperson vowed to face down progressive outrage. Zira Yusuf, who is not elected by anyone for reference, introduced as the Shadow Home Secretary, which again was not elected by anyone, at a press conference in Dover and said mass deportations carried out by a planned UK deportation command would not trigger the same kind of violent showdown he has seen in the US because policing is done by consent in the UK. He also described the number of migrants arriving in the country as an invasion. Let me just point out something here. Now he's saying right here that we wouldn't do that kind of style of policing. You wouldn't see that kind of rubbish with ICE here in the UK because things are done by consent. Well, there's just one tiny little problem which I think you guys might also be aware of. The Reform Russia want to take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights, which means that our consent and our human rights will go out the window here. And whether you have your documents or not, yeah, you could find yourself in the same position. Now, my fear is that if we do go down this route, God forbid if God help us if we do end up going down this route, I can see the likes of Tommy Robinson supporters being dressed up as ICE agents in the UK of that ilk. Because you have like the Proud Boys in America dressed up as ICE agents. And you could see the kind of Tommy Robinson flock dressing up as ICE agents and doing this kind of work. You might think it's crazy. You might think that's exaggerating. But if this Reform Russian government has its way of removing us from the European Convention of Human Rights, they will be able to do a lot of this stuff. And while Parliament does have some restraint, and the House of Lords has some limited powers, it's going to be really, really nasty for us. I think we can all agree with that there. His remarks come as Reform Russia sets out a plan to tackle immigration, including mass deportations. You hear this all the time. Expanding surveillance power and the ban on the conversion of churches into mosques here. I don't know enough about why. Have there been a lot of churches converted into mosques? I don't know if it's a case of not enough people going to church in local areas and then they get turned into mosques. But my feeling is obviously if not enough people are going to that church and there's not enough money for the church, what is it going to become? A honking wrench? I don't see what the problem is with mosques, but of course we know how Reform UK and Restore Britain feel about mosques. The party also wants to scrap indefinite leave to remain, replacing it with a renewable 5-year work visa and a dedicated spouse visa. There would also be a new rule mandating automatic home searches for anyone referred to the Prevent Counterterrorism Programme by 3 separate corroborating authorities, the party said. This is well over the top surveillance for people who are not British citizens. Extremely over the top. And also, people who have worked and contributed to our society are being told that no matter how much taxes that they pay, no matter how hard that they have worked, none of that matters. You are not a British citizen, and we are going to keep checking you every 5 years. And there's a very, very good chance that after 5 years, you can end up being rejected. What is the point of anyone outside the UK wanting to come here if they're not even going to be allowed to stay after 5 years? There is just no point here. A user said the proposed UK deportation command would have the capacity to detain 24,000 people at any one time and deport up to 288,000 annually, operating 5 flights a day. This is absolute bollocks. There is no way he's going to be able. There is absolutely no way they're going to be able to pull off this number, and the US could not pull off the numbers that they could pull off. And the only reason why they were able to pull off the numbers that they've been pulling off in the US is because they rounded up a lot of people who were innocent, a lot of them that were US citizens, and ended up having to release them. I can absolutely guarantee you the only way that they're going to reach these kind of numbers is if they start rounding up people who are actually innocent or are British citizens and they end up releasing them, but counting them as numbers that they're picking up here. As of April 2024, there were approximately 2,500 detention spaces, Experts have previously warned that expanding capacity on this scale would involve significant costs. Yeah, and it's a report, and also it's worth reminding us, our justice system is kind of at the brink of collapse right now. Our prison system is overcrowded. So where are you putting all these people? Oh, that's right, detention camps. Yeah, because that's definitely very popular. On whether the party was prepared for US-style standoffs, including unrest seen in Minneapolis before and after the killings of 37-year-old residents Alex Pretty and Renee Nicole Good by federal agents, uses of reform would not be deterred. We do have the resolve to stand up to progressive outrage against perfectly legitimate enforcement of the law of this country. And the answer is we will never flinch in the face of that, he said. However, he argued that similar scenes were unlikely in the UK, adding that officers would not be armed. I have a very hard time believing that you are not going to be taking officers that are not armed. I spent a long time in America. There are a lot more firearms in America than humans. There are many problems in this country. Thankfully, we don't have a problem, Yusuf said. Oh, but there's just one thing. Did you guys know that Nigel Farage wanted to relax gun laws in the UK? Yeah. Did you guys... Don't forget that. You know, I'm pretty sure somewhere read by Nigel Farage that he wanted to, cut down on the, significantly reduce the gun laws. Let me just double check that there. Nigel Farage, reduce Nigel Farage gun laws. Let me just check here. Yes. Yes, there it is. Okay, I mean, it's a bit old, but it's still worth reminding us of this here. Yes, Nigel Farage calling for gun laws to be relaxed here. Yes, this was 12 years old, but it speaks for itself here. Yeah, he's called for firearm laws to be relaxed, calling the current ban on handguns ludicrous, yeah? And it's once you start making that slippery slope, obviously, of course, we know where that's going to go there. So, yeah, to say that, I really don't want firearms in the UK, and I'm pretty sure you guys don't either. But he will relax those rules whether we like it or not there. I don't envy everyone that has to do the job of law enforcement in America. That is so true. This notion that we're going to have the same issues comes sharply into full focus internationally as a result of Trump's ICE program. This is just not true. We would not expect UK deportation commands to carry weapons. But they will carry batons. They may carry they will carry batons. They could carry batons. They could carry stunt weapons to stun people as well. They could carry those weapons, which could and there is this possibility. I can see a scenario where they could use a stunt, one of those stunt tasers. That's it. Thank you, tasers. I'm losing my word. Where they could use a taser, and it could theoretically kill someone, depending on someone's certain health as well. You saw referring, he's claimed that Britain is being invaded, which is bollocks. Britain's not being invaded there as well. I don't think any more needs to be read on this, apart from, well, it's just insane. It's just insane. And it's, again, like, when I look at that that bit here, it does worry me significantly when I see this here. And there is still a proportion of reform voters who actually think that what ICE are doing is very good, and that that does worry me. That does worry me there from the YouGov polling there. That does significantly worry me there. It is good there are still some negative people there, but I wish they would not use that language. But unfortunately, there's a lot of old people who do vote more than younger people who feel that all their problems revolve around immigration, which is very, very frustrating indeed. I would ban all temples and turn them into museums, or let whoever wants to pray there in silence and be allowed to pray, says Zhao. Temples of peace, I would call them, but I'm a bit too out there sometimes, says Zhao. They want to override our rights and have nowhere to turn to, says 234. If reform win, I'll not see all of this. Good luck to you all, says Ellie. Isn't it a fraudulent act for Zia to call himself a shadow minister, as he's not an MP? Well, he hasn't faced any consequences as far as I'm aware, Sarah. Like, everyone's telling him he can't be a shadow cabinet. I mean, he got community noted, I think, on Twitter as well about it, saying he can't be there. But but I haven't seen him face anything for it. Jao says, I don't like Churchill, but he knew his people. He knew that the ECHR was a needed break to the rabble like today's reform. Like the poor red states in the UK, the dirt poor Stenglish, Sealish towns will vote for reform. Dirt poor, easily led. They did vote Maggie. Yeah, Maggie Thatcher. God, yeah, I know. Unfortunately, this is the direction we are going still, and we need to keep the fight going. That's for sure. 1 second, guys. Why is my sausages? 1 second, guys. Oh, that's why I'm messing it up because I'm using the wrong feed. That's right. I must be using this one. Oh god, I'll have to fix that later. Okay, let's take a little comedy moment here, guys. Just to kind of step away a little bit. We got a couple more other stories to look at here. I hope you guys enjoyed this one here from our good friend Garen. It's been a while since I've heard from Garen, to be fair. But it's been pretty miserable over in Ireland, guys. They are suffering what's called the Great Flood of Ireland 2026 here. Apparently, Ireland hasn't had a single dry day since 2025. The absolute abomination that Ireland has had to go through. My wholehearted condolences goes to Garen and all our friends across the pond.
It's fucking raining all the time. Ireland has not had a single dry day since 2025. Why can't it rain on somebody else for once, like them smug cunts down in Spain? The poor Irish, victimised again. It's pissed on us for 51 fucking days straight. I don't know how I've managed to keep such a positive disposition. We've decided now, fuck it, we're going building an ark. We're going to take the 2 best looking people from every county. I know what you're thinking. You're not going to find any good looking people in Roscommon. Don't worry, there will be a quarantine area on the ship. And obviously we won't be taking anybody from Carlow because they're unable to reproduce with humans. I'm only joking. I always pick on Carlow. I don't hate Carlow, I promise. I'm serious about Roscommon though. We're going to take Wales, I think, just because they seem quite soft. We're going to land here at Mclillit. Then make our way to Portamadog. Follow me, I'm delicious.
No, they're not going to make land in Scotland then. I would have thought that they're not going to make land in Wales and not Scotland. Okay. Well, looks like Garen's more favourable to going to landing on the land of the Red Dragon there. But yes, the Great Flood is there in Ireland, and as we've been covering on the weather on the Good Morning shows, you can see it's been nothing but wet there. As Donald Trump will say, it's incredibly wet, as he says there as well. Just a quick reminder as well, guys, before we go to the next story, if you can, please hit that like button, shares across social media, consider subscribing as well. And do check out the home tab for next time I'll be going, next time when I go live. I also want to remind you guys that this Thursday coming, myself, Van Man Talks, Daily Blase, and Mikey Famine of the Bin Podcast. We'll be doing a round table this Thursday. Do join us for that. And of course, this Wednesday night, myself and One Angry Pagan with the Eco Flake Show. That's Wednesday night, myself and One Angry Pagan with the Eco Flake Show. So if you join us for those 2 big live streams, it'll be greatly appreciated indeed. Right, let's go to this story here from the BBC with the headline that the UK says nothing is off the table in response to US tariffs. So Donald Trump threw a tantrum that the US Supreme Court basically said, no, you can't do tariffs. Donald Trump basically, I didn't listen to his full press conference. I was listening to it. I was listening to parts of it while I was out on my walk today through Vosh's perspective there. And basically the gist of it is that Donald Trump says, I don't give a fuck what the Supreme Court says. I'm imposing 15% tariffs. That's the gist of what he's basically saying. So the Supreme Court is not doing anything about railing in Donald Trump. And to be honest, it feels like that they can't do anything, if that makes sense. Because, like, they're saying one thing and he's basically ignoring them. So I appreciate the fact that the UK government has said that nothing's off the table. I do hope the UK government doesn't just sit and bend over like it has done so many times. I mean, it's not like they haven't sold out our NHS yet to the US in certain parts. Oh wait, they've already done that. It's not like you know, we had a trade deals with them and they've already turned their backs on them, like the Chagos one. Oh wait, we're going to come to that in a bit as well. Yeah, you like I know that British and American things are very intertwined. I accept that. I know that we're very much intertwined, and I know people hate that. And we do need to detach ourselves. We do need to detach things from the US and go a bit more British, or more English, or Scottish, or Welsh, or Northern Irish, rather than just constantly having this tangent of connection of webs with the United States, with a government that we just simply do not trust. We really should be doing more to detach ourselves from the United States here. So, let's have a read. So, Downing Street has said that no reciprocal action is off the table if the US does not honour its tariff deal with the UK, but added that no one wants to trade war. Oh, no one wants a trade war, sorry. Not reading very well today, am I, guys? So, it comes after US President Donald Trump announced a 15% tariff on all countries from Tuesday. Why? Why? The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said the majority of the UK-US deal, such as tariffs on car steel and power was not expected to change, but described the situation as evolving, and they said discussions between the UK and US were ongoing. If I'm someone working in the steel industry in the UK right now, especially if I'm someone higher ups in it, I would be absolutely fuming with all this, because it would just be pissing me off so much. I'd be like, can someone please control the orange tangerine? Like, I just can't. It would just drive me mental. If I'm someone working in the steel industry, and your numbers and whatnot are all determined by US influence and US policy, it just would be just an absolute nuisance for them. Excuse me. Meanwhile, the EU has put its US tariff deal on hold on Monday today in response to the 15% tariff, as Trump warned that countries that play games will face even higher tariffs. Obviously, we spoke about that this morning on the Good Morning Show for those who didn't see it there, which I think makes total sense, because why should the EU progress with its deal if the US are preparing to impose more tariffs than what they've already agreed there? Dave McGinnis, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Ask Fan Man if he has learned his left from his right and why the left don't talk about immigration. I'm pretty sure we're going to touch on immigration on the Thursday, one way or another. David, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Really appreciate again your support. Thank you for that. At some point, maybe we will have you and Van Man maybe on a round table in the future. Perhaps we will arrange that. I think it'll be an interesting conversation for sure. Definitely perhaps in the future. On Friday, the US Supreme Court outlawed most of the global tariffs that Trump had announced last year, saying the president had overstepped his powers. The ruling affected all tariffs Trump had introduced using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA, which includes all those announced on Liberation Day last year. Trump then announced a new 10% global tariff, which replaced the old one struck down, and on Saturday revised the rate to 15%. Business and Trade Secretary Peter Carl has raised concerns over Trump's tariff plans with his US counterpart. Carl said he's laser focused on protecting businesses and the British public, and all options are on the table. I appreciate the fact that he is not ruling out some kind of retaliation. He also stressed the importance of both sides honouring the existing trade deal between the UK and US. Trump administration's new 15% tariff will be introduced as a temporary solution under Section 112 of the 1974 Trade Act. Some products will be exempt under the levy, such as critical minerals, metals, and pharmaceuticals. The analysis from the think tank Global Trade Alert, the GTA, found that the UK will be among the countries worst hit if the 50% global tariff goes ahead, because it had negotiated a 10% deal with the United States. And meanwhile, the GTA said countries such as China and Brazil, which currently have higher tariff rates, would be better off. The 50% global levy does not affect the tariffs the UK and US had agreed on specific sectors such as steel, aluminium, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, and aerospace, which represents most of the UK's trade with the US. Only sectors beyond those the UK had negotiated separate sectoral tariffs would face a 15% global rate. This is because of Section 112 of the legislation Trump has said he will use to impose his 50% tariff. It's different from the way in which tariffs on specific sectors are introduced. The British Chambers of Commerce President Andy told the BBC that the UK would sit towards the bottom of the league table on trade partners if Trump's 15% tariff came into effect. The preservative of what happened over on the weekend and those who got good deals, the Allies have been mostly disadvantaged, he added. So, obviously, it's not Tuesday yet, but we'll have to wait and see. So, I guess we just have to watch the space, I think, is the best thing to respond to that there. Whether we actually go through with it or not, I mean, you can't rule anything out with Donald Trump, unfortunately, there, but it's frustrating, I think is a good word indeed there. All over Europe, we are tired of the US, and even Starmer in the UK are leaning over there too, so that is good. Yeah, I generally think that, look, if I want to be honest, Keir Starmer and this Labour government, I think they are just trying so, take aside the atrocities that are happening in the Middle East, because Labour are not doing anything to help Palestinian people there. Taking that aside, in most other foreign policy acts, I think they've been pretty good, with the exception of what's happening in the Middle East here. And I think that that Keir Starmer has handled it pretty well when it comes to Donald Trump. It's been very difficult. Obviously, the second state visit of Donald Trump did absolutely nothing. It was a complete and total fucking waste of taxpayer money. I think we can all agree with that. And the problems are continuing to climb for Keir Starmer with Donald Trump. So Britain could pay billions of pounds if the Trump collapses the Chagos deal. So ministers fear the UK could be liable for compensation should Keir Starmer bend to pressure from the US president to re-engage on the deal. So like I said, for those who weren't watching this morning, and I'll read into it in a little bit here. So Donald Trump is pissed that the UK are not allowing bases in Diego Garcia, as well as other UK bases, are being allowed to use as potential strikes from them into Iran should the US launch airstrikes in Iran. The UK doesn't want to be complicit in breaching international law, apparently, if these strikes are conducted by the US. That's essentially what the story is. However, the problem is that as much as they want to say we're not breaching international law, the other caveat, and I'm sure you guys know this as well, is that we are already complicit in breaches of international law in some way, shape, or form because of our deals and relationship that we have with a certain country in the Middle East that is doing absolute devastating atrocities in the West Bank and inside Gaza. And I think you know which country I'm referring to. So, yeah, that's essentially the crux of the story here, is that the UK don't want to play any part in what the US is going to do to Iraq. Essentially, they don't want to do anything to do with what's going to happen with Iran if the US does strike them. And obviously, we'll find out if between now and Thursday whether the US will strike them or not. So Britain could be forced to pay billions of pounds in compensation to Maduros if Sir Keir Starmer's deal to hand over Chagos Islands collapses under pressure from Donald Trump. The minister said to be concerned that withdrawing from the treaty would expose the governments to legal action in the international courts. Under the deal signed last year, Britain agreed to transfer sovereignty of the archipelago to Maduros while leasing back the strategically vital Diego Garcia military base in a 99-year arrangement worth $3.5 billion over the next century. Now, look, I've said this before and I've said this again, because some people have tried to argue that we shouldn't be giving up this territory. It's very, very vital, strategic. It's a vital strategic place in terms of defense, for the US and whatnot. Let's be clear here. These islands do not belong to the UK. They do not belong to the US. They do not belong to us in any way, shape, or form. These lands belong to its original people. We took the lands, we kicked them off the lands, we kicked them off the lands, and we basically claimed it for our own. We literally stole the land. That's just literally it. We don't have any rights whatsoever to it. The international courts, and if you respect international law, which I would like to think the UK does, but again, Israel. So there. So obviously, like I'm like, there's a part of me that wants this deal to go through, but there's a part of me that doesn't like this deal because obviously the base is still going to be there for another 100 years, which is not fair on its people. But at the same time, there is a lot of the lands that are going to be given back to its people. So there is that caveat as well. But what happens after 99 years? I mean, obviously, we're all going to be dead by then. But what happens after 99 years exactly? Because even after 99 years, obviously, the world will be a very different place then. But I don't think the US, even after 99 years, are going to want to give up that piece of territory. But again, I suppose my response could be, well, that's not my problem. We're all going to be dead by then. You won't make much of a fight cowardly like scared rabbits in the back of a shitty call, says Peak Music. Jao says, not one single country will support the US little war except Hungary, but they are too broke and to send any soldiers low. Yeah, Hungary have got a very important election coming up, so their priority is obviously, maintaining their Viktor Orbán, maintaining his control, which I do think he's going to rig to a certain extent in his country. However, the agreement has been thrown to doubt after the US president threw a tantrum, urged Keir Starmer not to give away the islands, and questioned the legal basis of the transfer. Telegraph reported that if the UK were forced to pull out, officials fear that Maduros, which is facing a mounting debt burden and a budget crisis, would seek damages for breaches of treaty obligations. Navy Ramagan, Maduros' Prime Minister, has pressed for a significant proportion of the payment to be front-loaded, with 1.8 billion due in the first decade, including rent for Diego Garcia and contributions to the development fund. Much of the money was expected to bolster the country's strained public finances. Maduros has previously pursued Britain through the international courts over the status of the Chagos Islands and has enjoyed favourable rulings. Trump, writing on his Truth Social platform, described the legal justification of the deal as fictitious in nature and urged Britain not to surrender control of Diego Garcia. Again, it doesn't belong to Britain and it doesn't belong to America. I just have to stress that again. Our relationship with the United Kingdom is strong and powerful one, as it has been for many years. But Prime Minister Starmer is losing control of this important island by claims of entities never known before. In our opinion, these are frivolous in nature. He added, we will always be ready, willing and able to fight for the UK. But we have to remain strong in the face of wokeism. Do not give away Diego Garcia. Although the US is not party to the treaty and will not be liable for compensation if it fell apart, the Diego Garcia military base is jointly operated and its long-term security underpins the agreement. Foreign Office official spokesperson said the government inherited a situation where the UK sovereignty over the Chagos Islands was under threat. Yes, it was under the Conservatives. Remember that. Maintaining control of Diego Garcia is the entire basis for the agreement we have reached. It's the only way to ensure that the base remains secure and operational for the long term. The deal would enable the US and the UK to operate the base just as it has always has for generations to come. Hence there. So, yeah, that is the current situation right now with it. But I think they're going to. I think personally, I think they're going to let the, people in the US are basically going to. There'll be people in the US basically saying, we'll be saying to Donny, we should just let this slide, personally. But whether they will or not is another thing there. Just a reminder, we've got one more super chat to get to hit tonight's super chat goal. So we've got 4 out of 5. If we can get one more, that would be great. And again, I do appreciate everyone coming here. This last one is a very interesting piece here I wanted to share with you guys. And we got a funny video to see ourselves out as well tonight as well. Just for reference here as well. Very interesting piece here from Byline Times. I'm looking forward to reading this one with you guys. So, Steve Bannon, Epstein, Farage and Johnson and the plots to topple Theresa May. It's exclusive from them here. The far-right former Trump advisor told Jeffrey Epstein that we are overthrowing May right now. as he worked with Boris Johnson to remove the then Conservative Prime Minister from office. Yeah. So you had quite a few people working together here. So, very interesting piece here to read here. If Starmer pulls out, he will be breaking international and UK Supreme Court rulings as well. That is true, Dave McGinnis. Thank you so much again. Enough for the £5 super chat. It's very generous of you. Thank you so much for tonight. It's very kind of you for the for your support. I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. Yeah, but obviously, like, what you keep having US down the US. You have Donald Trump constantly down his throat as well, and consistently topping and turning though. That's the other thing as well. You know, you got it's like, you know, you're trying to It's like you're trying to organize something, and then there's this giant orange tangerine in the room that's kicking up a fuss all the time, and you can't control it. Like one moment it's crying and screaming and shouting, and the next moment it's actually happily asleep and it's not causing any problems. That's kind of what Keir Starmer's having to deal with regards to this deal. I'm the thing that I'm not a big fan of, obviously, is of course the Diego Garcia base, because, you know, the island belongs to its people, and its people are being told they're going to have to wait another 100 years before they can fight for it. But the thing is, I just don't think they'll ever get those lands back. And it's not right that the islands do not belong to the US and UK in any way, shape, or form here. You know, if we believe in democracy, if we believe in rights, if we believe in the rule of law, if we believe in sovereignty for people, the lands of all these lands on those out there in those islands belongs to its people. Like the UK and the US have no right whatsoever to be on those lands whatsoever. They should not be there at all. And they're basically moving the goalpost with this deal as to say, okay, we're giving it back to you, but we still need this piece here for strategic reasons. So if you just let us keep this, like, please sign this deal, like, you know, sort of thing. It's kind of what it is, isn't it? To be fair, there. But thank you for tonight, David. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Yankee interference 234 here. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one here. It is an old one, but I thought this is one is going to be interesting to read together. So, newly released messages between the far-right former Trump advisor Steve Bannon and the late convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein revealed how Steve Bannon worked with Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage to overthrow Theresa May at the height of the 2018 Brexit crisis in the UK. Now, as we guys know, that Theresa May was trying very, very hard to get a Brexit deal that, if we turn ourselves back to 2018, you know, we look back in hindsight, it's so easy to say, man, I really wish we had that deal from Theresa May, because we would still be in the customs union at least, and Brexit would not be as bad. It would not have been as bad. It really would not have been as the deal that the Boris Johnson signed here. The problem is that she was just being stuck in the problem is that she was not getting any favorability whatsoever. And it was very frustrating, because no other discussions were getting talked about during that period. All we kept talking about is this bloody Brexit deal, and it was freezing like Parliament. Like, we weren't talking about anything else. All the time was being put around Brexit, and it was frustrating the British public so much. People were so sick of Brexit, and everything else was all put on one side at this time. Very, very frustrating indeed. It's not about the money, it's about informing people of the truth, and the courts ruled the occupation is illegal. Yes, absolutely. It is illegal. It is absolutely illegal, David. Yeah, it's important to remind ourselves that the islands, those lands, do not belong to the UK, they do not belong to the US, it belongs to its people. And that's what the international courts ruled, of course. Tories like a taser, good evening to you. Hope you are doing well there. Thank you for popping in, appreciate it. So the message begins in the days following Boris Johnson's resignation from May's government over a Chequers plan for Brexit, and show Bannon detailing his attempts to help remove the then Conservative Prime Minister from office. So in one message on the 16th of July 2018, Bannon, who had established a London base in a Mayfair hotel where he met prominent conservatives and far-right European political figures, tells Epstein that he is in London with Boris, while in another message 3 days earlier, he tells him, "We are overthrowing May right now." Johnson strongly denied any such collaboration with Bannon or Farage at the time, with his spokesperson telling the Observer in June 2019 that any suggestion that Boris is colluding with or taking advice from Steve Bannon or Nigel Farage is totally preposterous to the point of conspiracy. And unless there's actual concrete evidence, like it is conspiracy. But do I believe this? Do I believe there's some truth to this? Yeah, I do think there's some truth to this. Remember, this is the same Boris Johnson that made Lord Lebedev made him Lord of Siberia in our House of Lords with his links to Russia. Like, I mean, come on. When questioned later by LBC about reports of his communications with Bannon, Johnson called the claims the biggest load of coswallop that I've ever heard, which means there's probably maybe some truth to it because it's Boris Johnson. Spokesperson for Johnson did not respond to requests from Byline Times for comment following the release of the Epstein messages. Bannon's apparent involvement with Johnson began days after the then Foreign Secretary resigned from May's government, describing her Chagos plans as a betrayal of Brexit. The unused footage from the 2019 documentary The Brink, Bannon is recorded telling the documentary makers that he had collaborated with Johnson all weekend on his resignation speech. Yeah, definitely nothing to see here, Boris, right? Quote, "Today we're going to see if Boris Johnson tries to overthrow the British government," he is filmed saying. Now, I actually remember saying in the past as well, before I go any further, I remember saying that when the Conservatives completely changed, and politics in Britain really changed dramatically when Boris Johnson came in. Because when Boris Johnson came in, he set a precedent where he was the biggest problematic person in Parliament. He wasn't answering all the questions. He was dodging a lot. He was even known to mislead or whatever. Like, he was setting such a bad example. And since then, with the exception of Keir Starmer to a certain extent, I would say Keir Starmer's brought it back a little bit. Not a lot. But, since then, we've had some of the most terrible prime ministers who are just absolutely shite at their work when it comes to answering questions from PMQs. And it's just been like that ever since then. Theresa May was not a great prime minister. She was not a great Conservative leader. But she was a lot better than Boris Johnson. And she was the last so-called conservative politician, I would say, at the top of the chain that was kind of like still kind of believing in principles, shall we say. And principles pretty much just went out the door after May went. I believe it went out the door completely. But you guys can disagree in the comments there. He's going to give a speech in the Commons. I've talked to him all weekend about this speech. We went back and forth over the text. Bannon's association with Johnson appears to have begun after Trump's first election victory in 2016. Right after we won Trump's first presidency, Boris flew over, he recalled. Because their victory was as unexpected as ours, I got to know him quite well in the transition period. Johnson appeared to return the interest, inviting Bannon's controversial political campaigning company to 2 meetings at our Foreign Office at Willesden Park base in 2017. Previous Byline Times FRI requests for details about these meetings were refused on the grounds of US-UK intelligence and national security concerns. Alison Clayman, who made The Brink, said that Bannon had been unequivocal about his ongoing communications with Johnson. Other journalists picked up on the relationship when Bannon was chief of staff in the White House. Johnson reportedly developed a natural affinity with him. Oh, you don't say. Anthony Stendon, Johnson at Number 10 Book, reported unnamed FCO officials describing Johnson and Bannon as hitting it off during this period, finding him both intriguing and distasteful, while ignoring repeated official warnings about Bannon's far-right European connections. Johnson was reminded by officials that Bannon had an extensive contract with far rights in Europe, but it didn't seem to concern him, Centum had reported. After Bannon was fired by Trump in 2017, the Mirror reported that Johnson remained in regular contact with him. Of course he did. The association continued even as he befriended Epstein and used his connections and the financial acumen to set up his European far-right movement with Nigel Farage. Bannon maintained the association with the then UKIP leader, the Epstein messages suggest. On the 15th of July 2018, both men appeared jointly on the radio station LBC, during which they attacked May's leadership. Following their appearance, Epstein texted Bannon saying, quote, "Good work on LBC." Bannon continued to press for May's resignation in the months that followed. On the 14th of May 2018, the then Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg MP submitted a letter of no confidence to the 1922 committee chairman in May's leadership amid a wave of cabinet resignations over May's Chagos plans. Bannon texts Epstein, describing the UK as a hot mess, explained, "I've gotten pulled into the Brexit thing this morning with Nigel, Boris and Rees-Mogg." Epstein replied, asked if May would survive. Bannon said, "I don't see how. Boris Gove, Rees-Mogg, Davies, somebody has to step up." And here's the messages between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. You can see here. There, will Theresa May survive? There's Steve Bannon there. Exactly my fear, pencil, neck and all. So, I don't know why they redacted there, but yeah, they did confirm it was there. British arrogance makes a man a lord of a foreign land, then gives him access to the British political system. Yes, indeed. The next day, the Daily Mirror published a photo of Johnson and Farage sharing what was described as a cosy chat at a Belgravia restaurant alongside Johnson's father Stanley, fueling speculation of a hard Brexit pact. A spokesperson for Nigel Farage was contacted for comment, and of course, no answer. Bannon continued to claim to be working on May's removal. On November the 16th, Bannon told Epstein that he was still in London because these guys are trying to move on May today, tomorrow, and I'm having a meeting right now. Epstein informed the prominent Norwegian diplomat Attilo Rod Larsen, apologies if I mispronounce it, that Bannon would not be able to meet up in Abu Dhabi because he was staying in London at the request of Boris Johnson. So Bannon was staying longer and longer, trying to help them oust Theresa May as quickly as possible. Bannon agreed with Epstein that he should stay as long as possible in the UK so people can get the commitment of your follow-through. Journalist Michael Wolff separately emailed Epstein, positioning himself as an intermediately with leadership challenger Boris Johnson. A month later, in mid-December, Bannon appeared to still be involved, texting Epstein that May was struggling and that he could get Boris across the finish line. So this is an email between the journalist Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. He says, "It was pretty crazy. SB certainly believes that he's coordinating a worldwide revolution. At the same time, without a lot of evident faith in his revolutionary partners, including Boris Johnson. I was carrying messages between them. SB annoyed that BJ isn't stepping up to topple Theresa May fun." So yeah, literally US influence here, trying overthrowing the conservative government here. So you can pretty much say, did the United States of America get involved, meddled in UK politics here? Yeah, absolutely right, they did. May will finally resign following July, paving the way for Johnson's elevation to Prime Minister. The Epstein messages revealed a shared long-term interest with Epstein in the long-term project of securing the hardline form of Brexit, which May was perceived as being a barrier to. And again, I look back on this and thinking, had May survived or stayed in, perhaps, maybe we would have avoided this hard Brexit. In the days following the 2016 EU referendum, Epstein had emailed another associate Planteteer founder, Peter Thiel. Oh, God, this guy. Describing Brexit as just a beginning and the return to tribalism, counter to globalisation, amazing new alliances. The Epstein files reveal in clearer terms than ever before just how far these alliances extended. Very good piece from Byline Times here of showing just how hard. Oh, look at that lovely picture there. Definitely nothing to see in that picture there, guys. Dinner with Mr. Brexit, Bannon's European Revolution plan with Farage backed by Epstein there. Yep, definitely nothing to see there. I mean, you just they were all in on it. You know, they were all in on it. So it wasn't just a case of I think it wasn't just a case of, you know, the Conservatives and the combination of things that were happening in Parliament. It was pressure from Steve Bannon looking to try and push as much as he can, Boris Johnson and others, to push it in a way that puts Theresa May in an impossible position here. But the clock was already against Theresa May, and I know, like, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of Theresa May, but she was the last okayish prime minister, because after that, you know, we had nothing but terrible Conservative prime ministers. You know, one of the worst being, I think, Liz Truss there, personally. Mandy, good evening to you. Hope you are doing well. Please don't drink the bleach. I swear it's courses 234. Yeah. Well, I thought that was quite an interesting one indeed. And before we go, I think we've got one interesting, funny video to see ourselves out. When I say funny, it's not really funny. It's nothing funny about this, shall we say? I think it's fair to say. Excuse me. But I suppose if you are a fan of Friends, you can get a laugh out of this. But you know, if we don't laugh about these things, we're just gonna cry. So apparently, someone made a parody of the. So you guys may have. So I'm sure many of you have been fans of the TV series Friends. So someone made a parody video of it with the Epstein files here. So I thought I'd share this with you guys. I know I know the music is copyright, but we don't monetize. I don't monetize live streams, as you guys know anyway. So that's where whenever people super chat and whatnot, that helps make up for it. But I hope you guys enjoy this one anyway. Get a bit of a chuckle, because we need to laugh at these things. Because if we don't, we're just gonna cry. So here it is, the Epstein files with a Friends one, so per se.
No one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the old way. It's like you're always stuck in second gear, when it hasn't been your day, a week, a month, a week, your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you, like I've been there before. I'll be there for you, 'cause I'm there for you too.
I don't know who made this, but oh god, forgot to add Peter Mandelson to it. But mind you, there's so many people in the Epstein files, you wouldn't have been able to add so many people. It is actually more than a week old, to be fair, that video. But oh dear. If we don't laugh, we're just gonna cry, guys. We're just gonna cry. Anyway, I hope you guys got a bit of a laugh out of that, because we kind of need it here with what's going on there. Byline Times just described the end of the UK and its influence designed by the far right. Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much that story there. Just Byline Times highlighting the inevitable that is happening, unfortunately. The inevitable, unfortunately. The UK is going to break up. It's happening. It is happening. The UK is definitely going to break up, that is for sure. So, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came along tonight. Thank you to everyone who gave super chats tonight. Thank you, Dave McGuinness, and thank you, Stephen Morn, for your very kind super chats tonight. I really, really do appreciate them there. Thank you guys for all coming along as well. Hope you guys found tonight's live stream interesting, informative as well, because I do try to not just obviously give my opinions, but give you guys some, hopefully you guys got some interesting news as well. Obviously, we'll be back with another Viewpoint next Monday at 8 o'clock, so do join me for that. But tomorrow, I'll be back live with another Good Morning Show. But before you join me for tomorrow's one, do check out our friend, good friend in the chat, Dave McGuinness. He'll be going live with another, on Tuesday, with another paper review at 10:30 before I go live. So do check him out as well. If you're up a little bit earlier, before 9 o'clock, you could also check out Graham Hughes and Politics Social with the Morning Brew at 9 o'clock as well, if you want to do that as well. Yeah, appreciate everyone all coming here. And again, you can always check out the home tab for whenever I'll be going live next. You can also check out videos. I'm going to be trying to record a couple more videos on this channel if I get a chance as well. As for when I'm going to be recording Rumble or Patreon videos, I don't know when I'm going to be doing that. Like I said, I didn't have a very good weekend for those who weren't on the Good Morning Show. I wasn't feeling very well. And that's why I'm not donating blood tomorrow. I've pushed it back till March because I had the worst migraine I've ever had in my life on the Saturday, and I kind of want to avoid that. So I hope you guys can understand that. So, but thank you guys again. But on your way out, if you can for me, guys, before we go, please hit that like button, share this across social media, consider subscribing if you haven't already. And do check out the other content on the channel. If you do check out any shorts or long format videos, like, share, subscribe on them if you can. It would be greatly appreciated, because YouTube are really hurting my channel. They're really not pushing the algorithm whatsoever on my channel. So if you guys can help, it would be greatly appreciated. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever you guys are doing, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.